Hello and welcome to my Exsanguinate Traps Saboteur video. So this is a Saboteur that is currently level 95, almost reaching level 96 at Awakened level 6. And yeah, you can see that it's named Explosive Specialist, but I tried to go with the Explosive Arrow Traps, but that didn't really turn out so well. So I transitioned this character into a Exsanguinate build. So my first thought was to try Reap instead, but after playing around with Reap, if you don't scale AoE, it feels a little bit bad, so Exsanguinate kind of compensates for the amount of area covered. Even though it does a little bit less DPS, I find that Exsanguinate is a better skill to use. Yeah, as a Saboteur, this is a evasion dodge based character, and he has 4.5k life and 1.5k energy shield, and that is with the 30% less energy shield node from acrobatics. To achieve this, we used a discipline support or discipline aura gem. Yeah, you definitely don't need this, but I find that the extra life pool helps me survive a lot better. You can replace this with Herald of Purity or Flesh and Stone auras. Yeah, so he is sitting on, well, if you have blind included, this character is sitting at around 74% evade chance, and if we do get hit, it bumps it up to 82% with Wind Dancer, and then we have 40% dodge, attack dodge, and 44% spell dodge. And if we pop our Quartz Flask, it bumps it up to 55 and 54, and we're also getting that extra 5% of attack dodge from freedom of movement, so that when we're phasing, we get extra dodge chance. This build scales on hit rather than the dot damage, so we do this by scaling gem levels as well as crit. For sustain, we have life and mana regen, so we mana regen and then life regen when our traps gets triggered, and that counteracts the cost of Exsanguinate, since Exsanguinate uses your life rather than mana. And because of that, we don't need to use the Slave Driver's Hands, which most other trap builds use to solve like their mana issues. The Tinker Skin is also very useful for frenzy charges, phasing, and recovering life and energy shield when our traps are triggered by an enemy. It also gives us a decent amount of energy shield and evasion rating, so I would say this is best in slot chest for this build. The next upgrade would be maybe a rare chest with lots of spell crit, as well as maybe an additional curse. I'm not sure, but that'll be a very expensive upgrade. And this is, when I bought it, was about 4x, and that was a week ago. Yeah, you can, for our weapons, you can use 2 cold iron points, which gives us +3 to level all physical spell gems each, but I decided to go for a rare with spell damage and +1 to all spell gems, and then other rare mods. I picked this up for 30C, but you can see them listed for about 2x, so just wait until someone lists them for pretty cheap. If you do want to go for a rare, but 2 cold iron points are much cheaper. For our helmet, we have the Crown of the Inward Eye, and if you're going the exact build that I am, this is best in slot because of Transfiguration of Soul, where any scaling of our maximum ES gets also applied to our spell damage at 30% of their value, and this gives us a lot of energy shield as well as damage. And the best in slots enchantment would be either this: enemies affected by bear trap take 10% increased damage from our trap or mine hits, or Exsanguinate does 40% more increased damage. Either or works, and because of the new changes to the labyrinth, I got this on my first try, which was very lucky. Yeah, for our boots, it's Atziri step for the extra spell dodge. If you don't want to use it, or if you're lacking in resist, you can definitely use a rare boot. For amulet, life resist, and if you can crit multi, I picked this up for I think 30C, which is a steal in my opinion, since it also gave some energy shield and it was the Amber Amulet, which is what we need for a strength reliant build because of Exsanguinate. Then we have the Anointment Master Force, which also gives us strength and more damage. And then for our gloves, we have this with the Temple mod, increased damage with hits against chilled enemies. I actually found this, but you don't need it. It's just if you want to push your build to higher DPS, this is what you're looking for. For our belt, life and resist. For our ring, life and resist. One of them should be life and resist. The other one should be a vulnerability, curse on hit ring, and that's from a warlords or from delving. And yeah, I picked this one up for about 2x, but I was using this where I just alt spam for vulnerability and then regaled. And yeah, something like this would suffice, and these go for about 50C, I believe. So you definitely want to try to get the vulnerability, as that's a good DPS boost. So that's the gear. Flasks. You want a Jade Flask with evasion suffix. That is a little bit mandatory, since that gives us a ton of evasion. We have Quicksilver with increased movement speed as well. We have a Diamond Flask for more damage, and if you do find a Bottled Faith, you would replace the Diamond Flask with it. And then the last flask will be a Quartz Flask. A Divine Flask, Divine Life Flask for anti-bleed and anti-corrupted blood. And you would want the prefix instant recovery when on low life, since they changed the threshold of low life from 30% to 50%. So this gives a lot more life recovery than the Panic Flask, or the other Panic Flask. Yeah, so for our bandits, we took Alira because for the crit multi, mana regen, and life and resistances. And for our tree, we are looking at taking the keystones Wind Dancer, Acrobatics, Phase Acrobatics, and getting a Lethal Pride here would give us a ton of strength. So if I remove this, I actually lose out a lot of strength, and it disables a lot of my items. So yeah, this is mandatory to get strength, or you can just, no, I wouldn't say mandatory. This isn't mandatory because you can just take 2 nodes of strength and just leave out the jewel socket, but I find that this also gives, if you find a well-rolled one, you can get a lot of damage. Like for instance, we got the 20% increased physical damage here. We have 5% chance to deal double damage here. We have life regen here. We have increased life here as well. Yeah, so you want to just buy a bunch of these if you can, and just start socketing them here and see which one works for you. Or you can just use Divine Orbs on your current one and see which one works. For our Pantheons, we're using Soul of Lunaris. You definitely want to capture Shock and Horror, and that is, I forgot which map it is, but I have not been able to get it yet. But yeah, that gives us the 5% chance to dodge attack and spell hits if you've been hit recently. And then you want, for your miner, you want Garukan to get the plus 5% chance to evade attacks if you've taken a savage hit recently. So that helps our survivability for a bit.
Just need a moment to catch my breath.
Yeah, for our gems, we're using Exsanguinate with trap support, and then we have trap and mine damage, cluster traps, brutality, and chain support because Exsanguinate can chain. For single target, we replace chain support with charge traps, and until you have your power charges and frenzy charges in your tree, you can use hyperthermia instead of charge traps because of our scare boss chilling enemies around it. Speaking of our auras, we're using Discipline, which you can replace with Herald of Purity for more damage, but I chose Discipline for more survivability. And then Summer Scare Bots, Enlighten, and Diversion to Pride. I actually found this in the Grand Heist, but you can just use a normal Pride because it has bigger AoE. And then we have a utility. We have Second Wind connected to Dash, Steel Skin, and Increased Duration. Increased Duration helps our Steel Skin last a lot longer. So if we take that off, it's, let's see, 1.5 seconds. If we put it back in, it is 2.6 seconds. We get 1.1 seconds more duration. Yeah, so for our single target, we're gonna want to throw down our Bear Trap because of our enchantment, and Bear Trap also increases the damage the enemy takes, and the Frost Shield helps us with our survivability even more, where it takes 80% of the damage from enemies outside of the shield, or 20% damage from enemies inside the shield. It also gives us a base crit when we're in the area. Yeah, so this with this, you can almost face tank a lot of bosses, and yeah, it's just nice to just DPS push or DPS rush the boss down. As you may notice that we're using Vigilous Strike. You don't need to have this, but it's nice to once in a while stop and attack, get Fortify for, let's see, 13.7 seconds. It's not as good as 30 seconds, but I find that 13.7 seconds is plenty.
Need a moment to catch my breath.
And then we also have Evolve Grace, in which we bind to one of our keys so that whenever it's up, we can just pop it and it will max out our dodge chance for however long, 6 seconds. Yeah, and so we have a cast 1 damage taken support with Void Sphere, and this is solely for ultimatums because that would just suck a lot of enemies into the Void Sphere. You don't need this, but it's a nice quality of life to have while you're mapping. And then we have, we have the Frost Shield connected to Arcane Surge, so when we do pop our Frost Shield, we get Arcane Surge for 3 seconds, and Inspiration to lower the mana cost since we are pretty tight on mana. So if we take out the Inspiration, I exactly have 1 cast, but that isn't really ideal. Yeah, so we have a lot of auras, a lot of expensive auras, so we take a lot of reduced reservation of skills from our tree. So we took both of these, and I believe if you do get a level 4 Enlighten, you can just drop these notes and then invest them into something like this for more damage, or wherever you want really. But yeah, I am a bit too scared to try to corrupt this and try to get a level 4 and just lose out on the Enlighten 3 support gem. Yeah, what else should I be talking about? I guess I'll leave you with some clips about this build. The playstyle has been pretty smooth, and this has been a league starter, so this can start on a budget, especially when you use different traps. I've used Explosive Trap all the way to maps, and that in the damage scaling for traps, Explosive Traps transition well into Sanguinate because they're both physical based skills. I also tested with like converting the fizz damage to elemental damage, but that didn't really look so well on the POB, and also tried choosing different ascendancies. You don't have to go Saboteur, you can go maybe Raider, what a lot of people go as, or Assassin, or even Trickster. But I find that Saboteur has better quality of life nodes. His whole ascendancy is basically quality of life nodes. You have like the immunity to shock and ignite, regen as well, and we have the blind and reduced damage from blind enemies, and then we have reduced cost of skills, and since Exsanguinate uses life instead of mana, this is nice to reduce that cost. And then we have chain reaction, where our traps trigger nearby traps as well. You don't need to take this, but I found that it's better quality of life again, and you can take explosive experts instead. And the only benefit you get from this is the increased critical strike chance against shocked enemies, since we are not using elemental damage, and we don't have anything to burn enemies with. But yeah, that is the build. I probably will not make another video on this, just because I'm gonna get very busy, and yeah, I don't know how long it'll take for me to play PoE again. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this video, and have a good rest of your league.
I hope you've enjoyed your brief string of victories.
That was fun.
Series of victories continues.
Just need a moment to catch my breath.
Ruin's burden weighs twice as heavy. Ruin surrounds you. Fire seeks what it will. Vengeance is cold indeed. The flames race toward you. The sun is
Just need a
setting on
moment
your
to catch my
success. Feel his power! Ultimatum! ahead. Be still. Knights of Chaos. Feel its power.
Low on mine.
Chaos, Hezmin, be still. Ultimatum. Be still. Knights of Chaos. My service is finally over. And my service continues. Chaos laughs, mortal, and fortune is yours.